gorgeous night out. So a client came in late this afternoon to my office. Actually gave me an adjustment. I feel so much better right now. Cracking and everything. So the pinched nerve and the numbness is starting to go away. No, at the top. And we got on the conversation of schools and how everything, and this person, my client, is a teacher in here in New Jersey, old timer, and he sees what is going on. Now he teaches in the high school, and he teaches life skills. And he's kind of like an old-time Italian. So he kind of just says it how it is. And he sees, like, in the school, there's like one or two students that are in the midst of transgendering and whatever you want to call it. And he understands that, like, you can't tell the parents. So what happens is parents usually find out from other parents, because the students' friends tell the parents, and then they go and tell, and you hear secondhand news. And he's an old-time guy. And he's built like a truck. So I could just imagine if he ever decided, if he was in the street, he told me, he goes, if my kids were going through this at the time, he goes, I would want to know. I said, and I asked him, I said, which parent, how many parents would not want to know? And we were talking over the poll that came out that 77% of people would want to know everything that's going on with their children. And it was more parents and then non-parents. And as I said, we were speaking to each other and we were figuring out which parent wouldn't want to know. Which parent wouldn't want to know? And we were talking about it, and he's a tough guy. And he's built like a truck. And he has a son and a daughter. And we were having this conversation, and I said, what would you do if you found out your child was going through this process? Would you be mad? Would you be a danger? And again, this guy's like a Hulk. And he said he would be more worried than pissed. He would never put his child in any danger. He would want to know what is going on, because it's a mental state of mind, what is going on with the child through this transition period. What he couldn't fathom, because he was speaking about his children in their older years in high school. But when you start talking about children K through 5, we're talking 5 to 10-year-olds, that are in some sort of process in their mind of transitioning and not being able to tell that parent. Because the first thing they're going to say is, don't tell my mom and dad. And the student in the school, according to the law, won't tell the parent. And we're speaking about a kindergartner. We're supposed a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, who barely know even how to tie their shoes. He would never, ever put that child in that young age in danger. And I think if you asked every parent, would your child be in danger, especially at that young of an age? It wouldn't be that the child would be in danger. It would be a natural concern of a parent No different than anything else that these children have to deal with in challenges. So we're fighting a moral war. This is a moral war against parents. It's an ideological war to break the moral will of parents. And we were having this discussion. I said, how is it possible that the state of New Jersey can come up with this law that says all parents are dangerous to their children? See, they can hide behind civil rights and all this other stuff, but when you start speaking about young children, young children, not talking about high schoolers, we're talking about young children, that they say, don't tell mom and dad. It's no different if that child got caught cheating on a test or anything. Sometimes, please don't tell my mom and dad, please. You know, we all went through that when we were young, right? Oh my God, please don't tell mom and dad. And what's the first thing they did? They told mom and dad, right? But here they're not telling you. It's a mental state of mind with young children. Again, this law is from K through 12, 5 years old to 18, everybody in between. To take the moral fabric out of the parents. And what is really bothersome is that when doing these live casts, people come up to me and talk to me about this. And they say, well, just take care of your own child. Take care of your own. But that's not our goal. Our goal is to look over our children, right? But it's also, as a collective, to help all children and all parents. So they want to isolate the families. Right? And they're making this thing bigger and more dangerous than it actually is. That's how they play on the fear. They say that this transitioning period is very dangerous. And I read an article that a friend of mine sent me that was basically stating that a child was going through, a student was going and getting bullied because the child was going through a transitioning period. So normally, in a normal case, when a student is bullying another student, the parents know. The parents know. They have to sit down, try to hash out, give out consequences, the whole 9 yards, right? But here in this situation, hey Toddy, in this situation, the school did not inform the parents that this child was being bullied for transitioning, or in the midst of transitioning, or the process of transitioning, or the mental process of transitioning. So they did not inform the parents that their child was being bullied for the sake of this process, of this whole protection. And this is true. But they don't want the parents to know. But if the child wasn't in transition and got bullied, the parents would know. It's a very slippery slope. And I posted one earlier where a daughter, they didn't know, and and whatever the case may be, and got kidnapped or something to that effect, right? So there's so many real life stories and scenarios that they don't want you to know. For any court to say that every parent is a danger to their child is incoherent. It's incoherent. So as parents, as we fight for our rights, because our children are our responsibility, not the school. They don't want the parents in the school, and sometimes I don't blame them, because there's parents that are helicopter parents, and you let them in the school, they're all over the place. So I kind of get that, right? There's like really nosy parents and helicopter parents, and they're all over the place. And yeah, if you're PTA, that's one thing. Like when my son or my daughter gets sick, I meet them at the front door. I don't go into school, which is fine. I don't care. But they call me. Right? They call me. They don't take the initiative, say, oh, we'll give you an aspirin. You know? We'll give you an aspirin. We'll do this, you know. No, they call you up right away. Go pick them up, right? They're not going to touch the child. They're not going to give an aspirin for lawsuit's sake. Right? But there comes a point with our boards of ed, do they have the moral fabric to stand up? Because what's coming down the road, even after this, see, they got, here in New Jersey, in Trenton, they got stuff in the pocket. They're going to wait till after the election, because every assembly seat is up for re-election, and a handful of state senate seats are up. So this is when the assembly that's dominated by the Democratic Party hides and doesn't want to discuss what's going on with parents, or what's going on with the Board of Education in the state of New Jersey, or the Department of Education, and all this other stuff. So they kind of hide. And the media here in New Jersey, which is about 98% liberal, protects them or denounces them as misinformation. No different than what Sean Spiller of the NJA was saying, oh, this is all misinformation and all no, it is the correct information. This is the reality of what's going on in our school boards, in our school districts. Pornographic books, an accelerated child sex education program. That now, if there's an instance, which is passed by the New Jersey Board of Education, that states simply that if the school or the class decides to break it out by boys and girls, and there's a boy who is in transition and wants to be a girl, can go into the girls section of the class. And when you look at parents, and parents don't believe in this stuff, but that goes on deaf ears. It does. They don't care what parents think, but yet they preach diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all this stuff that they preach about is parents always at the table. Here, the parents are completely shut out. If you look at the public comments at the last meeting, over 800 of them, it was widely understood that parents don't want this. But yet, 6 members of a state board of education, who were appointed, by the way, or probably even they're appointed, said no. Looked at parents and said no. They're dangerous. It's not the parent that's dangerous to the student or to their child. It's these radical liberals who are pushing their radical ideology into our education system that doesn't belong in education. And understand how they play this manipulating game here, Lori. See, they want DEI, inside these schools, right? To show that there's no racism and all this other stuff. So you have to, it's become like a big, massive industry. It's almost like a $4 billion industry that you hire these consultants to make sure that you are not racial, not transgender, all this other stuff. It's all a scam. It's all a scam because who are you hiring to determine that? People who went through this specific program. And the New Jersey School Board Association now has to give school boards 60 days to come within compliance of this. Or else. And you have to protect these children from kindergarten to 5th grade. That's like really pivotal that you have to protect your children. You have to let your parents know. How would you not? And I talk to people who are not parents. So you don't have these people who don't have children don't understand. They just look at it from an ideological standpoint that, how can you actually tell me that I would be a danger to my children? Their first reaction is, well, maybe it's not you. You may not be. Well, then the word all has to be eliminated. Because it can't be all. But people don't understand this. They're so locked in to this ideology. And people think that because it's not even about Republican and Democrat. This is about a parent. It's got nothing to do with politics. I'm not understanding, and no one on the opposite view can give me any logic to this. And this is even Matt Clacken and even the Department of the Attorney General's office, they can't defend this. They just hide this behind civil rights and civil whatever. No. These are kindergartners, 5th to 5th graders, 6th graders. Their minds aren't mature enough to understand. Some might be tomboys. I mean, we had all this stuff that we grew up with. How do you not tell? How do you not tell a parent? And that's why I say, in these conversations I have, is like, I would love to see more boards of education join these other 3 boards of education in that lawsuit. Because when you do that, the masses are waking up. They are actually reflecting. See, every school board, Lori and Tracy, here should do, like, they love having, polls or all this other stuff. Our school board should have a pulse to find out what parents think about this. If you really want to preach inclusion and equity and from our parents, wouldn't you want to understand the parents' view to this? Because it is extremely controversial and it is a direct impact to the parent. and the family as a whole. So if the local school board, which I would love to have my Fort Lee school board, send out a poll and say, would you want to know everything that is going on with your children in the school, including transgender transitioning? I would say 90% of the parents would say yes. There is the data that you represent, because now you are now representing the parents. You're now bringing the parents to the seat at the table. This is how you conquer this kind of stuff. When you have data that says 90% of parents, probably 95% of parents that respond would say, yes, I want to know everything. You can even ask a question, would your child be in danger if the school board informed you? Because the school board not telling the parent now could have a level of liability if something, God forbid, happens to that student, like commits suicide, or starts to take drugs or something without the parent knowing. Will the school board be liable? Yes, Tracy, this is evil. This is morals. This isn't, see, parents have to understand this. This is your children. These are our children that we need to stand up. We need to be in the way for them. We are the protectors of our children. We're not the danger to our children. We're not. So wouldn't it make logical sense if I asked the Fort Lee Board of Education to say, let's put out a poll, let's put out a survey to all the parents, would they want to know everything that goes on with their children in the schools, including gender transitioning? Yes or no? If your child, because now you're holding the parent accountable, right? If you said, would your child be in danger if your child was in the transition period? Yes or no? You hold that parent accountable. Now you have true data where parents stand. You have accountability. And when you have this data, and largely is going to come 90%, I can't see it being lower than 90%. Then you have a leg to stand on to change this radical law that's been imposed by radical Democrat leaders who are being born, who sold their soul to the NJEA and all these radical movements for money. Because morally, they would never do this, but this is about money into their campaigns to get reelected, to continue to have power. Follow the money. What's crazy about it was when this came out last month about the New Jersey Board of Education, Coughlin, who's the head of, I think, Coughlin and Scuteri, the two heads of our Senate and the State Assembly, the Democrats, they came out, well, this is a little too crazy, right? Blah, blah, blah. But where's all the other Democrats? You understand? Sometimes it's not what politicians say, it's what they don't say. You have to change that culture. It's not just keep throwing more money into the same problem. Yeah. Because it's all about money, right? These standardized tests are about Pearson and all these other these big companies making money. As they continue to make money, they're taking away the creativity of teachers. And as I said, me as a coach, I have a way of coaching players opposed to other coaches. Right? I'm firm and fair. Right? I could be a hard ass, but I'm fair. There's other coaches that are like very quiet and very cut. Everybody has their own way, but the goal is to teach our players how to play the game, how to develop the game. When I looked at my little league, right, years ago, we were setting the bar so low. We were dumbing down our players. Well, this is became no. We have to raise the standard. Player development. It wasn't about playing the game or having a couple of catches and having a couple of practices. It was about setting up a standard for player development to elevate their games. No, it's an education system just like in education. And you now see the results of what we did 9 years ago. The fruit of our labor, the putting the resources back into player development, raising these players to play at a higher level, understanding failure, understanding losing and winning and all this other stuff, and how to play within a team and all this other stuff, raising the standard. We've created better baseball players through development. There's no difference. It's not rocket science. We're not doing this in education. We're not. We're not having a litmus test on who's on the all-star team and the travel team. We don't have to go. We just pick the best players to represent through their work, through their ability. Not everybody is equal. That's why they want to take away grades and all this other. They want to dumb down the education system. They do. Because it's failing. Because they lost track of education. They lost track. That's why teachers don't want to teach anymore. It's not teaching. There's too much compliance, too much regulation, too much CYA on these teachers. That's why there's a teacher shortage. That's why there's a shortage of bilingual teachers. So they're not addressing the root of the problem. Teachers don't want to teach in this environment. They don't want parents. Teachers that understand it are. I'm always been blessed with my teachers, with my children, because when I first have that initial, I said, we got to work together as a team. You are the professionals. You need to tell me what's going on immediately. Don't wait. And sometimes I get pissed on them because they do wait and it's too late. I said, I want to know immediately. Right? I want to know immediately. If my children are falling behind, I want to know about it immediately so I can address it with you to see what we can do. Don't wait till the semester, the marking period is over with. I want to know about it immediately. That's what I need to know. And they agree, and they've done it. For the large majority, they've told me that. And these teachers have been amazing. They're like, You know, especially with my children, they're like, well, you know, we should have them stay after school. Let's do it. If that's what it takes. Because that's what the teacher understands the student more than anybody. Not the standardized test. The standardized test is just a moment in time. This is all about the attack on the moral character of the family. This isn't, what they're doing is not about education. I tell you, look what's going on in China and Japan and India and all these other countries. They're not doing this stuff. They are developing these young minds. And here we are talking about, should we have a pride flag or feelings and SEL, social emotional learning, and CRT and all this other stuff. That in the grand scheme of things was never a major issue in our school districts. It's just, but this is what our school districts and our boards of education now have to get clamped down on and bogged down on, is all this stuff. And you would think, professionally, yeah, you have a superintendent, you have all these administrators, you have all these teachers, that they should understand how to conduct themselves professionally to begin with. Okay? And there's always going to be instances. But I've never heard through all these years here in Fort Lee that any child was in grave danger in a transition or transgender. Nobody. So they created this false danger, fear. Just like they did with the defund the police movement, that the cops were dangerous. We have to defund them. And they did. And look at the results. Look at it. All these big cities, these big liberals that they said we're going to defund the police departments and we're going to take away all this. Look at their cities. Look at their cities. I said, we are sanctuary cities. We will take everybody in. Look at them. Look what they've done to the culture of our country. You have to remove them. They're the danger to your children. They're the danger to our children, these Democrats in Trenton. Because they follow a sick ideology. Look at their track record. They could be great individuals personally, but look at their votes. Their votes are what counts. And they are the ones that put parents in this situation. So you have to remove them to stop it. It's up to the parents here. It's up to the parents to stand up against this radical movement in Trenton. That's why the Republican Party here in New Jersey is dysfunctional. And the Democratic Party is a well-fueled machine because they're trained not to say anything, even if they disagree with it. Because this is about morals. And there's many Democratic politicians who have children in school districts. And they'll stay silent. They won't come out against what's going on because they're not allowed to. It's like the mafia. a code of omerta. Silence. Never tell anyone outside the family what you are thinking. That's the Democratic Party in this state. No different than the mafia. The code of omerta. Silence. Never tell anyone outside the family what you are thinking. Follow the train. Yes, they are, Brian. Yes, they are. You don't see Democrats. Do you see Democrats, Brian? You see Democrats calling out New Jersey saying this is crazy. This is morally wrong. We have to go back and change this. Look it up, Brian. It's the truth. You don't know what any Democrat thinks outside the party. They don't come out in public and tell you that they may disagree with their own party ideology. Because there's many Democrats that are moderate who don't believe in this radical stuff, but they won't say it. Because they don't want any kinks in the armor. They don't want the machine to be crippled. It's where they're trained. That's why they're successful. Because you never hear what they believe. Because they're well protected by this media. And they're well funded by the NJEA and all these other lobbying firms. They're the ones with the scuttle. Look at it. And look at the Republican Party here in New Jersey, Brian. They're all fighting each other in public. Who's a rhino and who's not, up, and this and all that. Right? You see it. Very vocal. But the Democratic Party, you don't hear anyone saying they're a Dino. You don't hear anything. They all toe the line. And they'll never give you an answer what they believe. Right? Because, Brian, if you ask the Democrat what they believe about this parental stuff, what are they going to say? Morally, they know it's wrong. Go ask a Democrat. No, Brian, I don't think they all agree with each other, Brian. No, I firmly believe not every Democrat believes the same ideology. They don't. They don't. They just know how to ride the storms together. They know how to keep it very disciplined and very quiet. Because when you have the media on your side, and when you have the majority, they know how to ride the storm. They know how to circle the wagons well. Look at it in Trent. It's obvious. You're trying to tell me in the state assembly and state senate that only the Republicans are coming with law that say this is ridiculous, and not one Democrat is joining to co-sponsor this, to say this is over the top, that parents should have a right to know, as a parent, everything that's going on, especially that all parents are dangerous? Brian, are all parents dangerous? No. But they put us all in one big pot. So no, they just know how to keep it quiet. They don't want any cracks in the armor. There's a whole group that they sold their morals, Brian, They sold their souls to stay in politics and stay in power. They sold their soul, and they need to be removed. They sold their soul to an ideology to stay in their political positions. They've lost track of morals. The only way to answer them back is to remove them because of their voting record, because of what they've done to our children in these school districts, what they've done to these boards of education in these school districts by their votes. How are assembly people and state senators helping their community if they don't understand the pulse of their community, Brian? How? Here in my community, Brian, if you took a poll of every parent in this town, probably 9 out of every 10 parents would want to know everything that goes on in their children's school. So how are they helping their community if they don't even understand or even had a conversation with the communities that they represent? No town hall meetings, no board of ed meetings, no meetings with the mayors and councils to say, hey, this is coming down, it's really controversial. What's your pulse of your community? And 9 out of every 10 parents, Brian, would say, no, we want to know. So we can help our children. We're not danger. They never did that, Brian. Why? They don't represent the people. The Democrats in Trenton do not represent their constituents. They represent the money to keep them in power. Right, but now it's a time where parents have to stand up and vote them out. They have to vote them out. You have to take their political cap off and say, I am a parent and you are a danger to my children. You are destroying my children's education. That's it. You got to start that way. You got to keep trying, right, Brian? I got to keep trying. Because if you don't keep trying, then you submit. I'm not submitting. I won't do it. It's not just because of my children, it's because of all our children in these communities. No, I don't, Brian. No, I don't. And if I did, I would treat them the same. It wouldn't matter. But would I want a boy to play in girls' softball? No. Would I want a boy to be on the girls' swimming team or the girls' track team? No. I'm sorry, there are limitations. Brian, I understand what you're saying. Right? And these children are going through a moment in time. And it's a tough process. No, it's not, Brian. Because you have to understand the opposite side as well. Kids are suffering, Brian. Why? Why are kids suffering? Why are kids suffering more than ever now? Why? Why? Why are parents suffering? Why? Who are the haters? I don't hate anybody. And I said, Brian, if my child, if my son or daughter are in a transition of transgendering, I would want to know so I can help. I'm not a danger to them. I would never be a danger to them. If my children become gay, I would support them. They're my children. Right? I know plenty of gay people, Brian. Many. And they don't agree with what's going on. Are they haters, Brian? He just said nope, he doesn't want to know. Why wouldn't you want to know? Why, Brian? He wouldn't. Bruce, he basically said no, he doesn't want to know everything that goes on with his child in the school district. My question is to him, why wouldn't you? Fair question, right, Bruce? Pretty fair question. It's a great conversation to have. Come on, Brian. Come on. I'll invite you on. You can give me your point of view because we would all want to hear your point. You're not a professional educator, but you are a parent. Right, Brian? You are a parent. This has got nothing to do with education, Brian. This has got to do with your child and your parent. You as a parent. Why wouldn't you want to know everything that's going on with your child in the school? If your child is getting bullied, Brian, wouldn't you want to know? You don't want to know, Brian? If your child is bullying somebody in school, wouldn't you want to know? If your son got caught with weed, wouldn't you want to know? If your child got caught cheating, wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to know, Brian? Wouldn't you want to know? So what wouldn't you want to know? What wouldn't you want to know, Brian? What wouldn't you want to know? That's the question I'm asking. What wouldn't you want to know? What situation would you not want to know as a parent? That's why I want you to come on and have a conversation with me, Brian. This doesn't work. Because I would love to hear your point of view. What wouldn't you want to know about your child in your school district?